Bullet Train is a new big-budget action movie from the director of John Wick, where Brad Pitt boards a bullet train in Tokyo on a mission to recover a mysterious briefcase. A mission that isn't very easy because it turns out that the train is full of deadly assassins from all over the world who are all after the same things. And when you explain the movie's core premise at face value like that, there's immediately a danger of it becoming just another John Wick action knockoff. You know, there are way too many characters here to properly develop, so they could all very easily become indistinguishable shells that you can't name or even tell apart. The story here is so contained and so done to death already that it could very easily become forgettable noise you won't remember past the credits. The action here could very easily become the same John Wick gun-fu action except on a train, which obviously wouldn't be as good because it's not John Wick and there's no Keanu. Except that, as you may have guessed already, that's not the case here. All these would-be negatives have been somehow turned into positives. Now, does that mean that Bullet Train overall is a great movie? Does that mean it's better than Prey that I looked at through a negative lens last time, for which I apologize?
I don't want peace. I want problems, always!
The answer is, I don't know. It's up to you. You can only find what you search. A negative side here could be that the tone isn't for everyone and that the pacing can be a bit all over the place. Another positive side here could be that the cast list is incredible.
Now that is an Avengers-level threat.
It's just about what you're looking for. But in terms of the premise that I mentioned, Bullet Train is a very positive example to learn from. It takes these core action movie elements that at face value seem very generically basic and then elevates them into something more. Even though there are tons of new characters here, they're all easily distinguishable. Even though the story here is familiar and on rails, there's some very outside-the-box aspects about it that set it apart from every other movie. Even though the action here could be just more John Wick, it ultimately consists of things that John Wick has never and could have never done. So today, let's find out how Bullet Train pulls that off. Here's how to take the most basic action movie cores and elevate them into something more than what they at face value would be.
They were buying it. Oh, I had him.
The way the characters here are elevated with very limited time is with a motivation to make them feel like people and a signature quirk to distinguish them. Take for example codename Ladybug, who serves as our anchor into the movie. He boards the bullet train on a simple work mission to steal a briefcase, which isn't the strongest motivation since again he's not our main hero as much as he is our eyes. That motivation soon evolves into him having to solve the murder mystery on board to get blame off his own back, which isn't the strongest either, but is enough to most importantly understand him as a person, why he does what he does.
If I can figure out who the Hornet is, I can give him to the Lemon and Tangerine so they don't whack me.
Really?
See what I did there?
I'm really proud of yourself.
What is very strong with Ladybug though is his quirk, the fact that he seems to have crippling bad luck. All he has to do is exit the train with the case, which he can't do because a nemesis from his past just happens to show up at the door. All he has to do is pretend to have the right case for 60 seconds, which he can't do because he just happens to crack the combination lock.
No one gets greedy.
I mean, the whole reason he's on the train is that he just happened to fill in for the wrong person at the wrong time.
Mr. Carver. Bro.
And whether you like the quirk itself tonally or not, it is something specific that helps you identify this character right away. By definition, it's much easier to distinguish Brad Pitt with bad luck than just Brad Pitt. As another example to build on this, look at Lemon and Tangerine, this pair of stone-cold hitmen. Their goal is to deliver the son of a Yakuza boss back home along with the case of ransom money, which takes a bad turn when the case goes missing and the son dies. And so now, because the Yakuza boss isn't the nicest kind,
A modern plague, they said. A white death.
they need to find the case and the killer to at least be able to shift blame, which again makes them seem like humans behaving according to human motivation rather than fictional characters following the script. And as for the quirk, not only are they the most unlikely twin brothers,
I'm not so sure they're twins.
Stop it. Everyone knows they're twins.
their personalities are also very strange for professional hitmen. One of them has a hard-on for fruity codenames,
Tangerines are sophisticated.
And now he's calling them fruit
Yeah,
sophisticated.
they cross-hybridize with other fruit.
the other has a hard-on for trains.
Some people are diesels. Fuck me.
and together they argue in public about the most private matters like the number of people they just killed, which makes them much easier to immediately distinguish than if they were just two generic hitmen. But perhaps the best example of this is the prince, a spoiled rich girl called the prince because her parents wanted a boy. Her motivation is often in the driver's seat, and quite strongly so. She at her core is a broken and angry daughter looking to kill the Yakuza boss for reasons that become more clear and understandable the further we go. And her quirk is the fact that even though she's a young girl, she's usually the one in charge. She easily outwits grown men with guns. She's an embodiment of fearless confidence as well as coercion and manipulation.
Actually, a man with black framed glasses had it. He went that way.
She's essentially built on dramatic irony where the audience knows the truth about her, and in every scene we're just begging for others to realize it too.
Said that I could be a good backup plan and that a pretty girl makes a good hostage.
Yeah, well, we ain't wrong there, but look, keep your knickers on, all right?
Please help me.
All right, I can't.
All of which immediately gives this character a lot to work with, to the point where the best performance in a movie filled with stars and legends might come from this young up-and-coming actor, at least more so than if the character was just a moody teenage girl. And in this manner, the list goes on. We have a Mexican cartel member whose motivation is to avenge his professional and personal family, while his quirk is being the most Mexican cartel member you've seen. We have a poison assassin whose motivation for the final fight is shielding her own identity, while her quirk is being a viper in terms of her actions as well as personality.
Weak ass bitch.
We have a Russian Yakuza boss whose motivation is to avenge his wife's death, while his quirk is being a Russian Yakuza boss, the quality of which is up to you, but the point being that by definition it's much easier to immediately distinguish a Russian Yakuza boss in Japan than a Japanese Yakuza boss in Japan. What you might have noticed so far is that the quirks here are usually comedic, but in your movie they don't have to be. It's just about finding some unique quality to assign to your character that helps the audience immediately separate them from the pack that they would otherwise disappear into. As an example, let's say you have 5 assassins from all over the world who are all basic assassins, except one who has this obsession of being anti-establishment. He's so concerned about his files and info getting stolen by governments and hackers that he keeps his internet super encrypted 24/7. He gets so pissed off about websites and streaming content being geo-locked based on the region he's in that he enjoys circumventing those locks and accessing everything everywhere. He hates the fact that online prices fluctuate based on location so strongly that even though he's a millionaire, he still presses a button to change his IP to another location to save a few dollars. When you compare this specific quality of freedom and anti-establishment with the other assassins lacking anything like it, who do you think is the easiest to remember? Oh, and by the way, all the stuff he's doing, he does with this blue button called Surfshark, the #1 assassin-friendly VPN. I've just explained why you need it, so just know that right now you can get it for 83% off with 3 months for free by using code FILM with the link below. The way the story here is elevated is by imbuing it with narrative through lines to make it into something that exists nowhere else, which I've touched on before, but for good reason, I'll do again. A great example of this is Lemon's obsession with Thomas the Tank Engine, which is this old children's train cartoon as well as the most famous rap song from the rapper Biggie Smalls.
Release the brainstorm to make your motherfucking brain warm, a strange form.
Thomas is what Lemon is all about. That's how he understands people.
Some people are Edwards, wise, kind. Some people are diesels. That was the trouble.
That's how he makes his choices.
You're the diesels. I can't kill ya.
That's something that in many various ways just keeps coming up.
Everything I learned about people, I learned from...
If you mention Thomas the Tank Engine one more time, I'ma shoot you in the
And while offbeat character obsessions are nothing new, this particular one spreads to such extent that it starts to get weird. Not only is it used to build this one character, not only does it affect the journeys of other characters, not only does it touch on the MacGuffin, not only does it run in parallel with the location and serve as its punchline,
Realize that I don't know how to f***ing drive a bullet train.
Dude, all you do is talk about trains.
Man, Thomas is a mad.
it also very significantly guides the plot.
There's been a diesel running up and down this train, causing all sorts of havoc. And it was you the whole time, you.
In other words, the Thomas the Tank Engine element isn't just a simple setup and payoff, but instead an idea that may seem meaningless at first, but in time grows and develops and keeps reappearing again and again in many different forms, like a very specific narrative line through the story. As another example to better explain this, look at the main thematic message of fate. Like I mentioned, the key thing about Ladybug is that he seems to have a bad case of bad luck.
My bad luck is biblical.
But the further we go and the more of it we see, the more it starts to seem like something else. Yes, he stumbles upon an old nemesis from his past, but at the same time he survives a knife to the chest. He remains on a train. Yes, he runs into the poison assassin and gets poisoned, but at the same time, that's why he gets this antivenom that saves him from a snake bite later on. Yes, he kinda just ended up in the wrong train at the wrong time, but it's his involvement that allows the events to unfold, as if it's not so much bad luck as it is fate.
The Ladybug holds all the bad luck so that others may live in peace. Fate.
That's a deal.
Again, the central theme of fate may already exist in 1,000 other movies, but not in the grand scheme way it does here. The way this character's personality is built on it, the way the events of the plot follow it time and time again, the way the villain's weakness revolves around it, the way it seems so non-existent at first, but then gradually becomes a defining part of this movie's story. If I'm still not making sense, think of it like one of those fighting games. There's only so many different buttons and core moves you can do, but when you take one and start to build it into this longer chain, that's when the possibilities grow into the millions. That's when the story starts to take a form that no other story in existence has. And so the point is that when you're coming up with the story elements for your movie, really evaluate their inherent value. Are they original already on their own, or should you use them to build this larger, truly original chain? We've all seen Japanese anime culture in movies before, but not in this way. Not how it affects the aesthetics and the signature core of a character and the functionality of the plot and the finale. We've all seen insignificant items like a water bottle carry significance before, but not in this way. Not how it's used to reinforce a character's dislike of guns, not the way it becomes a part of the theme, not the way it makes central events happen, not the incredible route it takes to get to where it's ultimately needed. We've all seen cool interconnectivity before, but not the way we do here.
Carver, I want the Carver. I hired the Carver.
Yeah, no, he had a stomach thing, man. I'm just filling in.
I'm not saying everyone likes these specific through lines in the story, but I am saying that these through lines are specific enough for everyone to remember the story by. What I'm saying is that even if your story overall is very straightforward and already done to death, you can fill it with through lines that aren't, to at least ensure that you won't be forgotten as nothing. The way the action here is elevated is by mining the action from very specific places that only this movie can. Most of the movie takes place on a bullet train, for example, so that is where a lot of the action originates. From fighting in tight spaces, to holding on to dear life to stay on board, to climbing back in from the outside, to having to respect the rules of specific cars.
It's the quiet car.
To having to maintain the facade in crowded places, to having to find outside the box ways of hiding bodies.
He's a f***ing happy chappy, ain't he?
I mean, this is something that the finale goes all in on. We're taking control of the train to escape the Yakuza. We're fighting enemies on the inside and outside while at the same time speeding out of control. We're getting derailed and smashed into a small town at the end of the line. This is something that wasn't in the original script and instead got added in by the director, which is a good showcase of why the John Wick directors have become some of the hottest names in action. They understand that whatever it is you have to really go in on it. The reason the action here is very different from John Wick is because it's the type of action that only a bullet train movie can do. It's not so much about guns and gun fu as it is about the surroundings. Doesn't mean no other bullet train movies have ever done anything like it, but it's better to expand on a specific 3-minute sequence than it is to be the 100th John Wick clone. As another example, a big influence on this movie is Japanese culture, and it also shows in the action. Not only in terms of individual elements and evocative imagery, but also the fact that the finale is all about swinging samurai swords while the speeding train is getting ripped to shreds. Or as a different example, the action can also come from what we talked about before. Ladybug's fight with the poison assassin isn't just a whatever fight, but instead all about her viper quality, about venom and anti-venom. The twins' Yakuza shootout is very heavily influenced by who they are.
How about a wagon wheel? Oh, that works.
The whole climax here gets underway all thanks to the Thomas the Tank Engine train guy that we've got. I'm not saying any of this is entirely new action we've never seen before, because it's not. That's not possible anymore. All the core moves have been used. It's not so much about discovering a new action element as it's about identifying the elements that are exclusive to your movie and then mixing and matching and expanding. That's how you create new action sequences. That's how you earn the price of admission. Both of these sequences are built on the same core action elements, and yet they're both new and worth paying for. Both of these movies are built on the same action elements, and yet you could argue that the context of the action is different enough for the movies to be different. Whereas both of these movies are the same. The original you've seen and the clone you have no reason to pay for. The action in Bullet Train at heart is very similar to 1,000 samurai movies and a few train movies and also Wolverine. But thanks to the way those similarities get put in a blender with everything we've discussed, it's not the same. If you want to see a train movie with action and a big crash, you can see Snowpiercer. You should see Snowpiercer. But if you want to see the Bullet Train way of doing that, you can only do so by seeing Bullet Train.